Commander Vec pushed open the heavy wooden door and it creaked on old hinges. The sound echoed through the quiet hallway of the human estate. His scanner glowed blue in his four-fingered hand, sweeping the area for heat signatures and biological markers. He was here on official business. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, the owner of this estate, was in serious trouble. Intelligence reports suggested she was hiding something illegal. Something dangerous. A baby dragon from the Stellaris species, one of the last remaining creatures of its kind in the entire galaxy. The Galactic Preservation Council had strict rules. No unauthorized contact with endangered species. No exceptions. Anyone caught breaking this law faced 20 years in a detention facility. The creatures themselves would be confiscated and placed in permanent stasis. It was cold, yes, but it was the law. Vec had enforced this law for 300 years. He'd never questioned it before. The scanner beeped, pulling his attention to the left. A faint heat signature came from the servants' quarters, a small room at the back of the estate. He moved quietly down the corridor, his footsteps barely making a sound on the polished floor. What he found stopped him in his tracks. The room was bare. Cold stone walls. A single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. No furniture except for a wooden shelf and a small sink in the corner. The temperature reading on his scanner showed 15 degrees Celsius. Far too cold for humans to sleep comfortably. And there on the floor was Katie Ross. She was the household maid according to his files. 26 years old. Originally from a small town in the American Midwest. She'd been working for Dr. Hayes for 2 years, sending most of her salary back home to support her younger siblings. Katie lay curled in a tight ball on the hard floor. She wore a thin work uniform that offered no protection against the cold. Her lips had a slight blue tint. Her body trembled even in sleep. But she had no blanket covering her. Instead, the blanket was wrapped around the tiny creature cradled in her arms. Vec's breath caught. There it was. The baby dragon. It was smaller than he'd expected. No bigger than a human infant. Its scales shimmered with a soft, pearlescent glow that shifted between silver and pale blue. Tiny wings, still too weak for flight, were folded against its body. Its breathing was shallow but steady. Vec's scanner automatically ran a medical analysis. The hatchling showed signs of severe trauma. Broken ribs mostly healed. Lacerations across its back carefully bandaged. Burns on its feet treated with medical gel. The injury pattern was unmistakable. Poachers. Someone had tried to capture this creature, probably to sell on the black market. Dragon scales were worth a fortune. Their blood was used in illegal medical treatments. Even a baby would bring millions of credits to the right buyer. This little one had barely escaped with its life. And somehow it had ended up here. In the arms of a human woman who had nothing. Katie stirred in her sleep. Her arms tightened protectively around the dragon. She pulled it closer to her chest, sharing what little warmth her body could provide. "You're safe now," she whispered, her eyes still closed. "I've got you, little one. Nobody's gonna hurt you anymore." The dragon made a soft chirping sound like a bird. Its scales brightened slightly, responding to her voice. Vec stood frozen in the doorway. His hand moved automatically to the communicator on his belt. Protocol was clear. He should call this in immediately. A transport team would arrive within the hour. They'd take the dragon into custody. Katie would be arrested. Dr. Hayes would face criminal charges. The hatchling would be placed in cryostasis. Frozen in time. Waiting for a proper facility that would never come. The council didn't have the resources to care for every endangered creature. Stasis was cheaper. Easier. Most creatures never woke up. Vec's finger hovered over the communication button. He looked at Katie again. Her body was shutting down from the cold. Hypothermia was setting in. She could die if she stayed on this floor much longer. But she'd given her only protection to the dragon. A creature she'd probably found just days ago. A creature that meant nothing to her by any logical measure. She was sacrificing herself for it. Vec had studied humans before. They were one of the newest species to join the galactic community. Physically weak. Short-lived. No natural weapons or armor. They should have gone extinct centuries ago. But they hadn't. They'd thrived. Spread across hundreds of worlds. Built alliances with dozens of species. And everywhere they went they did things like this. Illogical things. Dangerous things. Compassionate things. His species, the Talic, had evolved beyond such emotions. They'd engineered compassion out of their genetics 40,000 years ago. It was inefficient. It led to poor decision-making. It wasted resources on lost causes. They were stronger for it. Smarter. More successful. Or so he'd always believed. But standing here, watching this fragile human woman shiver on a cold floor, holding a dying creature she had no reason to save, Vec's hand slowly moved away from the communicator. For the first time in 300 years of service, Commander Vec hesitated. And in that hesitation something shifted. Something he didn't yet have words for. Something that would change everything. Vec stood in the estate security room, his eyes fixed on the holographic display floating in front of him. He pulled the footage from the past 72 hours. He needed to understand what had happened here. How a common household worker had ended up with one of the galaxy's most protected creatures. He scrolled back to 3 days ago and pressed play. The garden footage showed Katie Ross trimming hedges near the south wall. It was late afternoon, golden sunlight filtering through the trees. She was humming while she worked, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Then she froze. Her head turned toward the bushes. She set down her shears and walked slowly toward something hidden in the shadows. Her hand reached out carefully, gently pushing aside the leaves. And there it was. The baby dragon, bleeding and broken, barely breathing. Vec watched as Katie's face transformed. Horror. Then something else. Determination. She looked around quickly, scanning for cameras, for witnesses. Smart. She knew this was illegal. She knew exactly what she was doing. But she did it anyway. Katie scooped up the injured creature as carefully as possible, cradling it against her chest. She wrapped it in her work apron and hurried inside through the servants' entrance. Not the main house. She was hiding it, protecting it from being discovered. Vec fast-forwarded through the next hours. Katie carried the dragon to her small room. She laid it on her bed, the only soft surface she owned. She examined its wounds with shaking hands. Burns. Deep cuts. Broken bones. This wasn't an accident. Someone had hurt this creature deliberately. The footage showed her pulling out her phone. She made a call. Vec enhanced the audio. Yeah, I need medical supplies. No, I can't say what for. Yes, I know it's expensive. How much? That's half my month's pay. Fine. Fine, I'll pay it. Just bring it tonight. And don't ask questions. She ended the call and sat on the floor beside the bed, watching the dragon struggle to breathe. Vec continued watching. That first night, Katie didn't sleep. She researched dragon biology on her phone, accessing websites that were definitely illegal. The Galactic Preservation Council had restricted all information about Stellaris dragons. Anyone caught viewing this data could be arrested. She didn't care. She read medical journals, treatment protocols, dietary requirements. She took notes on scrap paper, filling page after page with information. When the medical supplies arrived at midnight, she paid the shady dealer everything she had. He handed her a bag and left quickly, not wanting to know anything. Katie spent the next 2 hours cleaning and bandaging the dragon's wounds. Her hands were gentle but steady. She talked to it the whole time, her voice soft and reassuring. I know it hurts, sweetie. I'm sorry. I'm almost done. You're gonna be okay. I promise. The second day, she bought special formula from another black market contact. More money gone. Vec checked her financial records. She'd emptied her entire savings account. Money she'd been setting aside to send to her family. All gone. For a creature she'd known for less than 24 hours. She fed the dragon with an eyedropper, patient and careful. When it cried, she sang to it. Old Earth songs. Lullabies her mother had probably sung to her when she was young. The dragon responded to her voice. Its crying would stop. Its scales would glow a little brighter. The second night, she stayed awake again. Monitoring its breathing. Checking its temperature. Adjusting its position so it could rest more comfortably. By the third day, she looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. She'd stopped eating her own meals, instead using that food money for more dragon supplies. Vec watched her give the dragon her blanket. Watched her curl up on the cold floor without complaint. He stopped the footage. The evidence was overwhelming. Katie Ross had violated at least 7 galactic laws. She'd accessed restricted information, purchased illegal medical supplies, harbored an endangered species without authorization, failed to report a discovered specimen. 20 years in detention. Minimum. Vec heard movement behind him. He turned. Katie stood in the doorway, the dragon wrapped in the blanket in her arms. She looked at the frozen security footage, then at him. No fear in her eyes. Just calm acceptance. So, she said quietly, you know everything. Yes. And you're here to arrest me. That is protocol. Katie nodded slowly. She looked down at the dragon, which was sleeping peacefully against her shoulder. Can I ask you something first? You may. Your law says endangered species should be euthanized if they're inconvenient to protect. If there's no facility available, they get frozen forever. That's not preservation, Commander. That's just murder with better paperwork. Vec's translator processed her words, but struggled with the emotion behind them. The bitterness, the anger, the sadness. You violated council law, he said. You faced 20 cycles in detention. You understand this? Yeah, I understand. Katie looked at him directly. Then I go to prison. But at least I'll know I tried. At least I'll know I didn't just walk away and let it die because helping was too complicated. Vec accessed his cultural database. He'd read about humans before, but he needed to understand this better. The files painted a strange picture. Humans running into burning buildings to save complete strangers, knowing they might die. Humans adopting sick animals from other planets, spending fortunes on medical care. Humans donating organs to people they'd never even met, permanently damaging their own bodies to help others. They had no natural armor. No enhanced strength. No venom or claws. They were fragile and weak by galactic standards. Logic said they should be cautious, careful, self-preserving. Instead they did this, over and over again. Your species is illogical, Vec said, more to himself than to her. Katie smiled, but it was sad. Tired? Maybe we are. But you know what, Commander? We sleep better at night. She looked down at the dragon again, stroking its scales gently. Can you say the same? The communicator on Vec's belt buzzed sharply, breaking the silence. He glanced at the screen and felt his stomach tighten. High Arbiter Grav. His superior. The head of the entire Galactic Preservation Council Enforcement Division. This was not good. Vec stepped into the hallway, leaving Katie and the dragon in the room. He pressed the accept button, and a holographic image flickered to life in front of him. High Arbiter Grav stared at him with those cold, calculating eyes that had seen 1,000 worlds and felt nothing for any of them. Commander Vec. Status report. Vec straightened his posture automatically. 300 years of military training never left you. Sir. I've located the specimen. The hatchling is here as intelligence suggested. I'm preparing for seizure and... Excellent work, Commander. Grav's voice was crisp, efficient. No emotion. Just facts and orders. Seize the specimen immediately. Arrest the human who's been harboring it. Standard protocol. I'm sending a transport team to your location. They'll arrive in 45 minutes. Through the open doorway, Vec could see Katie. She was kneeling on the floor beside the dragon, which was now awake. The little creature was trying to stretch its wings, but they kept folding awkwardly. Too weak still. Too damaged. Katie was showing it how to unfold them properly. Her hands guided the delicate wing membranes, gentle and patient. She whispered encouragement, her voice so soft Vec could barely hear it. Come on, sweetheart. You can do it. Just like this. See. Spread them wide. That's it. You're doing great. Vec forced himself to focus on the hologram. Sir, I should mention that the creature is recovering well under current care. The human has provided medical treatment that appears to be effective. Perhaps we could consider... Commander. Grav's voice turned sharp. The law exists for a reason. We do not make exceptions. We cannot make exceptions. Unauthorized contact with endangered species contaminates the specimen. It creates behavioral problems. Dependency issues. But sir, the hatchling will be placed in cryostasis until a proper facility becomes available. This is not a discussion, Commander. This is an order. Vec had worked for the Council long enough to know what that meant. A proper facility would never become available. There were only 3 dragon sanctuaries in the entire galaxy, and all of them were at full capacity. The Council had been saying they'd build more for the past 50 years. They never did. Cryostasis was permanent. The creatures never woke up. It was cheaper that way. Cleaner. The Council could claim they were preserving the species while spending almost nothing on actual care. It was a death sentence with better paperwork. Understood, sir, Vec said quietly. Good. I expect this wrapped up cleanly, Commander. No complications. Grav out. The hologram vanished. Vec stood alone in the hallway, staring at the empty space where his superior's image had been. His hand moved to the equipment case on his belt. He pulled out the containment field generator, a small device about the size of a human fist. 1 button press. That's all it would take. The generator would create an energy field around the dragon, freezing it in place. Safe. Secure. Ready for transport. He walked back into the room. Katie looked up at him. She didn't ask what the call was about. She already knew. Her face was calm, but her eyes were red. She'd been crying. She didn't beg. Didn't plead for mercy or make excuses. Instead, she turned back to the dragon. "Come on, little one," she whispered. "Try one more time. I know you're tired, but you can do this." The dragon chirped, a sound like tiny bells. It tried again, struggling to extend its wings fully. They shook with the effort. One wing unfolded completely, the membrane catching the light and glowing like stained glass. Katie smiled. Actually smiled. "Yes. That's it. That's perfect. Now the other one. Come on, baby. You've got this." The dragon pushed harder and the second wing unfolded. Both wings spread wide now, trembling but extended. It was beautiful. Fragile and small and completely beautiful. Katie's voice broke. "When you fly someday, remember this, okay? Remember that someone believed you could. Even when nobody else did." The dragon chirped again, louder this time. Its scales brightened in response to her voice, shifting from silver to brilliant gold. It recognized her. Trusted her. Loved her in whatever way a dragon could love. Vex stood there, the containment field generator heavy in his hand. His finger rested on the activation switch. One press. That's all it would take. He thought about his own species, the Talic. They'd evolved past emotions like hope 40,000 years ago. Their scientists had proven it was statistically irrelevant. Hope was just a chemical reaction in primitive brains, a delusion that made you believe in outcomes that had no logical basis in reality. It wasted energy. Wasted resources. Wasted time on causes that were already lost. His people had engineered it out of their genetics along with most other emotions. They were better for it. Stronger. More efficient. More successful. Or were they? Vec watched Katie stroke the dragon's scales. Watched her smile through her tears. Watched her pour love into a creature she'd known for 3 days, knowing she'd lose it in the next hour. The dragon responded to nothing but her belief. Her hope. Her irrational, illogical, completely unscientific faith that things could get better. And it was working. The dragon was healing. Learning. Trusting. All because one human refused to give up on it. Vec's finger trembled on the switch. For the first time in his 300-year life, Commander Vec wondered if his species had made a terrible mistake all those thousands of years ago. Maybe they hadn't eliminated weakness. Maybe they'd eliminated the only thing that actually mattered. Vec's fingers moved across his datapad, but they weren't entering the standard seizure report. They were doing something else entirely. Something he'd never done in 300 years of service. He was deleting evidence. The security footage from the garden where Katie had found the dragon? Gone. Corrupted file. System error. The thermal scans showing the dragon's heat signature in the servants' quarters? Erased. Data malfunction. The biosignature readings that confirmed a Stellaris dragon was present on the estate? Lost. Equipment calibration failure. Every piece of evidence that proved the dragon existed here was disappearing from official records. His hands worked quickly, methodically. He knew exactly which systems to target, which files to corrupt, which backups to scramble. This was treason. This was career suicide. This was everything he'd been trained never to do. But he couldn't stop. His official report, the one that would go to High Arbiter Grav and the entire council, appeared on his screen. He typed carefully. Inspection complete. Extensive search conducted. No specimens located on premises. Intelligence report appears to be false alarm. Recommend closing case file. He stared at the words for a long moment. One press of the submit button and it would be done. No going back. He pressed it. Katie had been watching him from across the room, her arms wrapped protectively around the sleeping dragon. Her face was pale, confused. She'd been waiting for him to activate the containment field, to call the transport team to arrest her. Instead he was doing this. "What are you doing?" Her voice was barely a whisper. Vec turned to face her fully. "You will continue caring for this creature. I will return in 30 cycles, roughly 1 Earth month. By that time, Dr. Hayes must file proper sanctuary applications with the council. Legal ones. You must build adequate facilities. A proper habitat. Medical equipment. Everything required by law." Katie's mouth opened, but no words came out. The dragon stirred in her arms, making a soft cooing sound. "I will provide you with the legal documentation you need," Vec continued. "The forms. The building codes. The medical protocols. Everything." "Why?" Katie's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face now. "Why are you doing this? You could lose everything. Your job. Your career. They could arrest you too." Vec was silent for a moment, trying to process the answer. He'd been asking himself the same question for the past 10 minutes. My species, the Talic, we engineered ourselves 40,000 years ago, he said slowly. We removed emotions we considered inefficient. Fear, yes, but also hope. Compassion. The ability to act against pure logic for another being's survival. We called it weakness. We thought we were improving ourselves. He watched Katie hold the dragon closer, watched the way the little creature trusted her completely. But I've been studying galactic history for the past hour while reviewing your file. The species that retained what you have, this irrational drive to protect others even at cost to yourself, they're the ones who survived the great catastrophes. The plague years. The resource wars. The dimensional rifts. Vec stepped closer, his voice quiet. Species with advanced logic and no compassion? They made mathematically perfect decisions and went extinct anyway. But you humans, you shouldn't have survived. You're weak. Fragile. You have no armor, no natural weapons. You live barely 100 years. By every logical measure, you should have failed. He met Katie's eyes directly. Yet you're thriving. Spreading across the galaxy. Making alliances. Solving problems my people can't even understand. And I'm beginning to suspect that my species discarded the very thing that makes survival worthwhile. Vec pulled out his personal data pad, the one that wasn't connected to council networks. His fingers flew across it, accessing files he wasn't supposed to have. Encrypted documents. Loopholes in preservation law. Construction blueprints for legal sanctuaries. Medical protocols. What are you? Financial records show you have no money left, Vec interrupted. You'll need resources to build a proper facility. I'm transferring credits to an untraceable account. Enough for construction, medical supplies, food for the dragon for the next 5 years. That's your money, Katie protested. Your personal. What else would I spend it on? Vec asked simply. My species doesn't value possessions beyond utility. I have everything I need. This creature does not. He finished the transfer and handed Katie his personal data pad. Everything you need is here. Study it carefully. Dr. Hayes must submit the sanctuary application within 20 days. I'll ensure it gets approved through proper channels. Katie was crying openly now, clutching the data pad with one hand while holding the dragon with the other. I don't understand. You're risking everything for us. For a creature you don't even know. Perhaps that's the point, Vec said quietly. Perhaps the ability to care for those we don't know is what separates surviving from truly living. The dragon woke up then, yawning and stretching in Katie's arms. Its wings unfolded, stronger than before. It chirped and looked around the room with bright, curious eyes. Katie set it down gently on the floor. Okay, baby. You want to try again? The dragon spread its wings wide. Wider than Vec had seen before. It crouched down, preparing itself. You can do this, Katie whispered. I believe in you. The dragon launched itself into the air. It was wobbly. Unsteady. Its wings beat frantically, trying to find the right rhythm. By all logical calculations, it was too weak. Too young. Too damaged. But it flew. Across the room, shaky but airborne, the dragon soared for the first time. Its scales blazed with golden light, so bright Vec had to adjust his optical sensors. Katie laughed, a sound of pure joy. Vec watched, something strange happening in his chest. A feeling he didn't have words for. It shouldn't have worked. Logic said it was impossible. But it did. And that changed everything. 30 days passed. Commander Vec's ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, heading back to the same estate where everything had changed. His hands gripped the controls tighter than necessary. He didn't know what he'd find when he landed. Had Katie managed to build the sanctuary? Had Dr. Hayes filed the proper applications? Or had everything fallen apart, leaving him to face the consequences of his decision alone? The ship touched down on the landing pad. Vec stepped out and stopped immediately. The estate had completely transformed. Where there had once been simple gardens, there now stood a massive translucent dome, easily 200 feet tall. Through the clear material, Vec could see movement. Large movements. Multiple heat signatures. Dragons. Plural. He walked toward the main building and Dr. Rebecca Hayes came out to meet him. She looked different than her file photos. Happier. More alive. Commander Vec, she said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. Welcome back. I think you'll be pleased with what we've accomplished. She led him through the estate to the new sanctuary facility. It was professional grade. Medical stations. Climate control systems. Feeding areas. Everything built to exact council specifications. We filed the sanctuary application 18 days ago, Dr. Hayes explained as they walked. It was approved yesterday. Fastest approval in council history, apparently. Vec had made sure of that, calling in favors and greasing bureaucratic wheels from behind the scenes. But he didn't mention it. They entered the dome and Vec's breath caught. 7 dragons soared through the air. 7. The original hatchling was there, now 3 times larger than before, its scales brilliant gold and silver. It moved with confidence, executing perfect aerial maneuvers that should have taken months to learn. But there were 6 others too. Injured dragons from across the sector, rescued from poachers and illegal traders. All of them healing. All of them flying. Katie. Dr. Hayes called out. Vec saw her then. Katie Ross stood in the center of the dome, surrounded by a group of young humans. She was teaching them, gesturing at the dragons above and explaining something about wing structure and flight patterns. She looked up and saw Vec. Her face broke into a wide smile. Commander. You came back. She jogged over and the young humans followed, curious about the alien visitor. Katie had a datapad in one hand and what looked like dragon treats in the other. I'm training new caretakers, she explained proudly. We have 12 staff members now. People from all over Earth who want to learn about dragon care. We're even starting an internship program. The largest dragon, the original one Katie had saved, descended from the sky and landed beside her. It nuzzled against her shoulder affectionately, making a rumbling purr sound. This is Starlight, Katie said, stroking the dragon's neck. Remember when she could barely open her wings? Look at her now. Starlight spread her wings wide, showing off. They were magnificent, fully healed, strong and graceful. Vec felt that strange sensation in his chest again. Pride maybe. Or satisfaction. Emotions he wasn't supposed to have. Katie, there's something you should know, he said quietly. What happened here didn't stay secret. Her smile faded. Are you in trouble? The opposite, actually. Over the next hour, Vec explained everything. His report had been filed as a discretionary protocol deviation. Normally that would mean immediate dismissal, possibly criminal charges. But someone had leaked it to the galactic news networks. 17 different civilizations had seen the story of a human woman saving a dying dragon with nothing but compassion and determination. They challenged the Preservation Council's policies. Why were they freezing endangered creatures instead of actually caring for them? Junior council members, younger species who had joined the galactic community more recently, started demanding reform. They pointed to Katie's sanctuary as proof that there was a better way. High Arbiter Grav had tried to have Vec fired. But 43 species, nearly half the council, had blocked it. They'd formed a coalition, demanding that the council adopt what they called the Human Sanctuary Model. They're calling it the Compassion Integration Protocol, Vec said. The idea is that preservation isn't just about preventing extinction. It's about actually caring for the creatures we're trying to save. Katie's eyes were wide. So what does that mean? It means humans are being invited to serve as empathy advocates throughout the galaxy. To teach other species how to build sanctuaries like this one. How to care instead of just catalog. Overhead, Starlight performed a graceful loop in the air, her scales catching the sunlight and blazing like fire. Katie looked up at her, then back at Vec. You changed everything. You risked your career, your reputation, everything you'd built for 300 years. No, Vec said firmly. You changed everything. You demonstrated that survival isn't enough. That a civilization's worth isn't measured by its technological advancement or military strength. It's measured by how it treats its most vulnerable. He pulled out his datapad one final time and showed her his new assignment. First Advocate of Compassion Studies, Katie read aloud. What does that mean? It means I'll be working with humans to help other species understand what you've shown us. That logic without compassion is just mathematics. That sometimes the most illogical choice, the one that makes no sense on paper, is the only one worth making. Katie laughed, tears running down her face again. Happy tears this time. And somewhere above them, 7 dragons danced through the air, alive and free because one human had refused to walk away. The galaxy was learning. Finally. The end.